What is something most people are scared of but doesn't bother you at all? Story 1. Being alone. More people need to be okay with spending time completely alone with their own thoughts. Eating alone, living alone, going out and doing things alone. You do not need another human to fill that space. Being able to eat alone in public is a skill everyone should master, but few do. Story 2. Confined spaces. Love them. I'm small. I fit into small spaces. When I was welding, I was the 5'3", 100 pounds guy that got to go up or down into little places no one else fit into. It was pretty nice, just chilling in a tube with my welder stick. I need an MRI because I apparently broke some parts of my spine a couple years ago when I fell off a horse and the referring doctor asked if I was claustrophobic. They learned this on an abdominal CT scan, looking for kidney abnormalities. MRI machines are great. They're in a temperature-controlled hospital. They gave me heated blankets for my last one. It wasn't pitch black, it wasn't as loud as it was at work. I didn't have to worry about heat stroke or catching on fire. I had to force myself to stay awake. It was pretty cozy. Story 3. Spiders. I love them TBH. Whenever I see one in my home, I pick it up and put it outside. And yes, I pick them up with my bare hands, and no, I've never been bitten while doing so. Spiders are total bros. They don't want to hurt you. In fact, they would much rather not interact with humans at all. They see us as predators, and they know that we could easily kill them in an instant. So they will only bite as a last resort if they feel that their own life is in danger. I mean, unless it's like a super aggressive species, but those are very uncommon. Edit. I noticed some people mention that they will simply let the spiders be when they find them in their home. So I should point out that I actually do this too for some of them. So it wasn't completely accurate for me to say that I put them outside whenever I see them in my home. To clarify, if I see one somewhere where it could accidentally get squished or something like that, then I will put it outside. However, if I see one that's in a spot where it's not likely to be bothered in any way, like in a high corner of a room or far away from things that could potentially be moved around, such as furniture, or where there's not a lot of foot traffic, etc., then yes, I absolutely will just let it live there, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. Story 4. People not liking you. Diversity of thought, views, backgrounds, etc. necessitates some conflict. Not everyone is going to like me, just like I don't like everyone. It is unhealthy to obsess over it. Conflict and personality clashes are a good thing, so long as they are handled in a mature and thoughtful way. Story 5. Microwave and cell phone radiation. I studied physics in college and actually did my thesis on the quantum mechanics of electromagnetic radiation, aka light. I can say with almost absolute confidence that microwaves and radio waves, what Wi-Fi and cell phones use, are insanely harmless. Your home's light bulbs produce more powerful EM radiation. Seriously, visible light is more powerful radiation and interacts more with skin than radio microwaves, which actually harmlessly pee through. Story 6. The dentist. I can appreciate why others are scared of them. My mom had the dentist used as a threat for punishment as a kid, which is awful to me. But going just doesn't bother me. I haven't had to have any extensive work done, although I did spend 2 hours getting a tooth that had shattered dug out of my gum by a sadist of a dentist a few months ago. It still isn't healed completely. Story 7. Sharks. As a diver, I like to see sharks. Usually they're swimming away, though. Sometimes they will hang around, and that's always fun. I have met bull sharks and tigers in the wild without any protective gear on. In addition, I have swum with about 50 shark species. They are not how the movies portray them. Story 8. Losing everyone. They love and being totally alone because I'm in it now, and I've gone through the worst of it. I think it's frightening, and it's like being in the Twilight Zone. And you think like you're in a bad dream and you're waiting to wake up that you never do. But then I've learned to be alone, and wasn't like I had a lot of people anyway. I was alone before, but this is a whole new level. I could be totally alone now, and I mean, like only talking to somebody like once a week, even leaving my house once a week, that kind of level of alone. Story 9. Silence. So many people I know just cannot, under any circumstances, be left alone with their thoughts. They have this compulsion to fill any void in a conversation, which just cheapens things. Sometimes there's nothing to say, and that's all right. Story 10. Tornadoes. I live in Tornado Alley. I've become numb. I only worry now that I have kids. Alternatively, I have emetophobia. My husband will puke without batting an eye, but I have anxiety about it every single day. Story 11. Non-stick pans. At that level, even if some coating is slightly cancerous, modern technology and medicine will balance it out. That material is going to kill you is way overplayed. Heart disease, stroke, and/or a car accident is much more probable. Don't smoke, that's just gross. Story 12. Snakes. I don't even know why. And I'm female to boot. I will run at the speed of light to get away from you if you try to get me to touch a worm. but I've never had a problem picking up a snake or touching them. It's weird, I know. Story 13. Being in the deep blue ocean and sharks, I love them, and when I come across one diving, it makes my whole month, no year. I have never understood the irrational fear of sharks when the stats show you that they're not indiscriminate killing machines. They're fascinating. And being in that water, surrounded by all that blue, it's like a cocoon and my mind goes quiet for a while. Save our oceans. Story 14, wild places. People ask stuff like, aren't you afraid of bears? If a bear was threatening me, I'd take it seriously, but in general, no, I'm not. Statistically, I'm more likely to die on the road, and that's more likely to scare me. Story 15, turbulence. It lulls me to sleep and somehow helps with my sciatica. Sitting in one spot for hours numbs my leg and it sucks. The worse the turbulence, the more relaxed I feel. Small spaces, they're simply cozy and again help me fall asleep, lol. Needles, they help me fall asleep. Just kidding, but they barely hurt. I often wonder why they are so scary for many. Is it the ocean with blood? Heights helps me fall. Story 16. Public speaking. I just don't have stage fright. You could ask me to go on stage naked in front of 50,000 people, and the only thing I'd ask would be, what would you like me to talk about? Okay, give me 6 months to lose some weight first, but still. Story 17. The dentist. My mom and aunt were hygienists, and I practically grew up in the dental office. I find cleanings to be relaxing, like scratching an itch you can't reach. I have good memories of being in the dental chair. Story 18. Being by myself, especially living alone. I know so many people who have never lived alone before. I find it strange. LOL. I love my family very much, but I sometimes reminisce about the times I've lived alone. LOL. Followed by going to eat alone, movies alone, etc., etc. How do you even know what you like? Who you are if you're always with someone else? Story 19. I love being outside during severe storms. I love extremely scary horror films. I love all things creepy, especially clowns. I love going deep into the ocean. Spiders and snakes don't bother me at all. I am absolutely terrified of public speaking. Story 20. People acting unstable. My mom used to have mental health breakdowns and episodes of rage. My sister and I have talked about how it feels normal to go into a supportive/de-escalating role when that happens with others, even random people. Story 21. Spiders, bees, and wasps. Spiders are cool and leave you alone if you leave them alone. Certainly don't deserve the kill them all on sight thing. Bees are cute and deserve only endearing affection and support. Wasps can be waved away 70% of the time, and if they're really annoying me or my parrot, I might swat at them. But running across a room to avoid them is not logical or justifies. Story 22. I had surgery a little over a week ago, hernia repair, and since I was going to be under anyway, I arranged to get my vasectomy at the same time. During the pre-op procedures, the nurse joked with me that my heart rate, blood pressure, was the lowest she was going to see all day because most people are very tense and nervous before surgery. Story 23. Snakes. I grew up in rural North Carolina. If you live in the woods, there are snakes. You just have to learn which ones to avoid. I have a black racer who lives under my house, rural Central Florida, and I've never had a rat or a mouse in the house. He likes to sun himself on my walkway. Story 24. Speaking in public. Many people find it difficult to stand in front of a crowd and speak to them. I don't have any problems like that. In actuality, the larger the throng, the better. I may become anxious while I'm speaking in front of a small group of people. Story 25. Being a follower. I am a self-proclaimed follower. Followers don't die from eating poisonous mushrooms because they watched the leaders convulse when they ate it. Followers let someone else take the risks. Followers go down trails already blazed for them. Followers take instruction well, in my opinion, and are able to learn from others before them. There's nothing wrong with being a follower and not a leader. Story 26. The great silent abyss of existence. The existential fear of not knowing what the universe is, or of why there is something instead of nothing. This fear is behind religion. This fear is behind all magical thinking. It's behind the meaning-making our brains are wired by evolution to do. It's why some people will grasp at any explanation, even though explanations are arbitrary and cheap. It's why people will adopt philosophies that soothe rather than make sense. I am fine with not knowing and not being able to know. I like the wide-open aspect of it, and I recognize our ignorance. It's not that terrifying once accepted. Story 27. Being robbed. I don't wear clothes worth stealing, but if the bad guy wants them, I'll gladly hand over my maybe $150 outfit down to the socks if they want. I have a super complex port on my phone, and I can easily lock any card attached to it. At most, I carry $20 cash. Everywhere I shop takes Apple Pay, and I buy basically everything else off Amazon or for pickup online. I'll gladly hand over the iPhone and Apple Watch because odds are I'll get those back eventually, and if not, I keep a brand new iPhone and Apple Watch in my safe just in case. I have receipts for every expensive thing, $600 plus, documented with photos and have receipts stored in the safe, in case my home ever gets ran through. My safe is too large and heavy to be moved around by your average guys, and good luck getting it unbolted from the ground. It feels nice to finally be safe financially. Takes tons of unnecessary stress and anxiety away. Story 28, not going to uni or achieving higher level of education, not having the best grades. Life is so much more than that. As long as you get a job that makes you feel fulfilled, then it's fine, Imo. So many people choose to go to a higher education because they think it's the only right way when it's really not. Story 29, bees, wasps. Don't get me wrong, I do not like bugs, but I've seen many PPL shriek and flail around uselessly when even a honeybee came flying near. But they honestly don't scare me. I leave them alone and remain calm, and they share the same opinion of me due to it. I have been bitten by a wasp once, though, and that did take like 3 WKs to heal. It got caught in my skirt as I walked by a nest I wasn't aware of. My bad. But damn, those sure burn then itch. Story 30, cockroaches or palmetto bugs, as they're usually called here on the Gulf Coast. My house is fairly clean, and I spray to repel them regularly. But for some reason, my area is absolutely chock full of them. And they have a nasty habit of making their way into my 100-plus-year-old house to roam around aimlessly and die in ways. Not sure if neighbors are infested with them and I'm just getting the bleed over or what, but I've had to deal with a moderate to high volume of them for over a decade now. And it's totally eroded my old disgust of fear of bugs to the point I can't be bothered to care much anymore. I still do my best to keep the house clean and keep the population of them down, of course. But if one touches me, it's not so much "you, get it off me," as it is "not this again, piss off, you little nuisance." At this point, when one crawls onto me, I can flick it off as if it were just a regular housefly, despite them being anywhere from the same size as one to big bastards where you can make out their anatomy from a good distance away. I've also gotten far too used to seeing profoundly stupid ones get stuck in my shower while I bathe, scooping them up and launching them back out into the dry part of the bathroom because I feel slightly bad for them for some reason. I've also developed a from-a-distance respect for spiders too, mainly as a result of this. Anything that eats these little morons and culls their population is A-OK in my book, and as long as it doesn't start with me first, I'm content to let it be. Still not going to go grabbing and handling them for fun, but I'm not exactly bothered by seeing them either, besides trapping them in a cup and putting them back outdoors for their own good. Story 31, aging. I'm in my late 30s and surrounded by women obsessed with trying to turn back the clock with all types of procedures and products. It's also alarming how many young girls are getting sucked into anti-aging skincare. What's so bad about having wrinkles? I feel like my laugh lines and crow's feet show I've had a good life, that I've laughed and smiled a lot. Aging is a privilege. Story 32, traveling alone. Had no idea how many people found this off-putting until I traveled and listened to conversations happening around me, or that I took part in. I sat next to someone on a plane that got diverted from our original destination due to storms, originally going to Florence, now landing in Bologna. The person next to me was stressing because it was the first time she'd traveled alone and didn't know how she was going to manage this unexpected thing. I remember thinking, but you're from Europe, this is your home turf. I'd never been to Italy in my life, and it was my first time out of the US in about 15 years. But I was like, whatever, and just took a hired car to Florence. Anyway, the airline ended up flying all of the diverted travelers to Florence after the storm cleared. I just didn't want to wait and had the means to go my own way. No need to stress. I also travel locally alone all the time. To paint, run errands in weird parts of town, take photos. Never felt the need to buddy up because for some reason, I've never been a target to nefarious people. Am a woman, but tall and observant and relaxed, which I feel is more intimidating than if I were nervous. Story 33, employment volatility. I'm self-employed. There have been weeks where I worked every waking hour and then some, and there are other times when I'm twiddling my thumbs and watching anime. So far, the averages have worked out and my expenses are fairly low. I was on an extended assignment covering a position for an IT company that was on its way out as they had lost the contract at the site. I was part of the conference calls, and I shared my philosophy with people, and they absolutely didn't want to hear it. They want the paycheck from the man every week like clockwork, and they're not willing to captain their own ship and make money off of other people's emergencies. Shrug. All the more opportunities for myself. Story 34, being wrong. It seems to create a fear response in people as they thrash and do mental gymnastics to make sure they never have to feel like they were wrong. Every time I find I was wrong about something, I feel reassured that I've not lost my ability to learn, happy that I'll be more correct in the future, and grateful for whatever source brought me the proof. Story 35 Sharks. I think they're adorable, even the traditionally scary ones. I literally made a speech for my public speaking CL about how sharks are misunderstood babies that need more love. For instance, more people kill sharks per year than the other way around. More people are killed by horses than by sharks. They are a crucial part of the ecosystem. Some sharks are flippin' adorable. Look up a picture of a thresher shark if you don't believe me. There's about 1,000 species of sharks and rays out there, and only 3 kinds of shark are dangerous to humans: bull, tiger, and great white. Story 36 Tornadoes. I've never had one right on top of me, but a street or so away several times. And that's still pretty crazy weather. Yeah, you could end up dead. Yeah, your house could go flying in a million different directions. The reason I'm not afraid of them is there's no way anyone can blame me for it. I spend my entire life being anxious, worrying, fretting, trying to head trouble off at the P. How can I fix problems before they arise? How can I make sure no one is mad at me? I've had a lot of trauma. I'm always certain everything is my fault. I'm always certain everyone is mad at me. You know what's not my fault? Tornadoes. I'm afraid of picking what restaurant to eat at, where to hang Christmas decorations. Should I get this cheese or that one while grocery shopping, but not tornadoes? Story 37. Your everyday bugs. I do have my boundaries, but I have no issue with picking up a bug that has landed on me, looking at it, and then putting it down somewhere. In an office of a bunch of men. I'm the one who will catch a random gropper or millipede with my bare hands and then just toss them into the GR. Once also caught a bird that they were trying to catch for 2 hours. I have the nickname of Mary Poppins at work. Blood too. I can't watch myself get drawn because the fishing they do bothers me, but if your nose is bleeding, whatever. If I cut yourself bad, it's fine. Your period started. Okay? Story 38 Bears. Listen, I know they're a threat. They're predators, but I've never felt the fear of them that others do. And I can't explain it. Numerous times in my life, I've been in nature with them, close enough to be killed. Once a grizzly in the middle of the night, and I was the only person on the work lease. Once at a park, and my boyfriend ran for his life and locked me outside. I'm not a tourist. I'm well aware of what they can do, but I've never felt threatened by them. Story 39, I work at an aquarium and wildlife center. I'm great with all kinds of snakes, including venomous ones and all kinds of bugs and spiders too. I don't mind handling them, and I don't mind handling dead fish either. I feed our eels by hand and just kind of pat away the bee when I'm cleaning their tank and they try to come bite me. I love my job. Story 40 Puke. Yep, I can clean up anybody's vomit. Had to unclog a friend's sink because his alcoholic mother had a vomit party the night before. As I've gotten older, my gag reflex ain't like it used to be, but that don't bother me. Story 41 Eye surgery. Don't get me wrong, I'm still nervous, but they don't scare me. I've had 6 eye surgeries and 5 laser procedures this last year. My current sentiment is numb me up, knock me out, and have at it. Also, did one surgery awake but numb, never again. Retina was detached so I couldn't see anything, but I heard everything. Story 42. I actually enjoy being alone, and I'm not afraid if things end with my partner and live the rest of my life alone. With that being said, I'd be sad, and no, I'm not looking to leave my partner anytime soon nor ever. But I noticed I've always accepted being alone, and I also thrive alone. When people bring this issue up to me, they say it's an avoidant attachment issue. It's really not, and it's a joy to be able to have full love and affection for yourself like that. It may not be for everyone, but it's one of my favorite qualities. Story 43. Most women are scared of giving birth, but I never felt any fear about delivery and labor. I'm surprised too, but I guess because I had no way of having any idea of what it'd really feel like, there was no point in worrying about it. Story 44. I used to love being alone. I've taken vacations to Mexico and Hawaii by myself. No expectations. I can eat whatever the hell I feel like. You don't have to wait on someone to get there together. A nice clean room with only my stuff. Meet strangers and make new friends at your convenience. It's so much fun. Story 45 Pain. In general, I have trigeminal neuralgia, so most general pains don't bother me too much. Fractured my foot a couple of weeks ago and just didn't feel like paying for an x-ray. BC, what are they going to do? Confirm what I already know. Then sell me a boot for $200 plus. I just bought a boot on Amazon for $38. I'm assuming it was more of a fracture/possible dislocation. I'm siding more towards fracture BC. I couldn't feel any real separation in the bones. My face still hurt worse than my foot. The hospital wouldn't have set my foot or done surgery, so I wasn't about to pay hundreds or thousands of dollars just for confirmation. I've injured myself enough to know when I've done something wrong. Story 46. Taking a pay cut if it means better quality of life. I'm pretty early in my career and leaned more into work while slowly chipping away at college. Took a $25-30K/year pay cut to go from retail management and a 45-minute drive to being a bank teller, and since then moving into a work-from-home tech position for the bank. I just have this unwavering confidence in my ability to be a good employee and a leader, even if it's not in my job description, and I'll work even harder the more freedom a company gives me. Story 47. A lot of people are afraid of what I call just sending it, and by that I mean the ability to just do something without hesitation or fear of the results. I have no problem doing things without full certainty that I'm going to succeed. Sometimes you just got to send it and hope for the best. Story 48. A lot of people are afraid of what I call just sending it, and by that I mean the ability to just do something without hesitation or fear of the results. I have no problem doing things without full certainty that I'm going to succeed. Sometimes you just got to send it and hope for the best. Story 49. A lot of people are afraid of what I call just sending it, and by that I mean the ability to just do something without hesitation or fear of the results. I have no problem doing things without full certainty that I'm going to succeed. Sometimes you just got to send it and hope for the best. Story 50. Clowns. I find them hilarious, despite characters like Pennywise or real-life monsters like Gacy. They aren't scary, not normally. I just see them as a dude in white makeup having some fun, which generally it is. The Gacys of the world are few, but it happens. Story 51. Hospitals and dentists. I used to volunteer at an emergency room in high school, and I actually loved walking through the labyrinthian halls and doors and never knowing what to expect. I've always found them to be fascinating and exciting. I've had crooked teeth since my adult teeth came in, finally on Invisalign now, so I always found a sense of relief to go to a professional that knew how to help my teeth. I was a very kept and controlled child, so even a trip to the grocery store was and still is very exciting. Story 52. Electricity. I will very carefully put my hands in a 240 volts residential panel to do some work. Now, once we get into higher voltage, I have some hesitation, but I also have the knowledge to understand how dangerous it can be and how easily it can ruin your day. Story 53. Driving in the snow. I got my learner's permit in the winter, so I was forced to learn in the snow. Ever since then, I've never even had trouble driving in winter weather. Yet all my coworkers will call out whenever there's just a few inches of snow on the ground. Story 54. Snakes. I used to be a stripper, and my first experience meeting a snake was with one of the touring headliners. She was just a trip, total sorority girl, except for the ball python around her neck. She took me up to her room in the hotel and put him on the bed so I could pet him, and he was nice and not slimy at all. So I've come to think snakes are very misunderstood, just like strippers. Story 55. Walking alone at night, especially in places people consider to be sketchy, dangerous. 7 times out of 10, you don't see anyone else. 2 times out of 10, you both just avoid each other. That 1 time out of 10, you walk with purpose and let them know you won't take any. When I was about 16, my friends and I used to get off our faces and roam the streets. If I survived then, I'll be fine now. I'm older, bigger, wiser, and especially sober. Story 56. Taxes, and specifically a tax audit. Over on the various tax subs, if I do, will I be audited? Is a surprisingly common question/fear. Most of such people would probably rather have a root canal procedure at their dentist that go through a tax audit, whatever it is. Most audits are by letter. Please document this claim that you made online XCX of your 20 NN tax form. Some are somewhat more in-depth. A vanishingly small number of retail taxpayers have screwed up so bad that they need to bring their entire tax form and all their receipts into an office to have everything reviewed. But you just can't convince some people that a la Hagar the Horrible, really, no one in a black hood and carrying a broadaxe is going to pound on your door at 3 a.m. and haul you off to some dungeon somewhere. Story 57. Electricity. Don't touch the shiny copper, or just turn the breaker off. Respect it, or it will hurt very badly the whole time it kills you. Half my business comes from maintenance men who are so afraid of electricity they won't change a receptacle. Story 58. Most things, heights, spiders, deep water, flying snakes, death, etc. I'm not claustrophobic, but I don't like not being able to move my arms. My only fear that I know of is rats, mice, which is kind of funny because it feels so random when nothing else bothers me. Story 59. Moving somewhere new. I grew up moving all the time, I think 9 times before I started high school, so people freak out about how they are going to make friends or learn to live in a new area. It's natural for me at this point. I like exploring places. I'm always a tourist in my own home. Story 60. Doctors, dentists. Might be because I've worked in hospitals and seen everything behind the scenes, but even as a kid, it never bothered me. I once fell asleep getting a cavity filled, LOL. I think for me, the mindset is I'm in pain, not feeling well, so this is a nuisance, but these people will make me better. My husband, on the other hand, is deathly afraid of needles, and the dentist, after growing up in a third world country where Novocaine and pain relievers were an extra charge and not automatic. He's had a cavity filled with no numbing shot. Eyeing can't imagine. Story 62. Public speaking, as long as I have something to say. Taking initiative as nobody else is. Talk normally and raise my voice if needed. For example, when you need to exit public transport and the path is blocked by those wanting to get on, I will raise my voice so they cannot mistake me for a meek individual, and they must realize the idiotic position they place themselves. Story 63. Bugs generally. Only the squirmy legless ones freak me out, but I'll overcome it surely. When other people scream over roaches or a praying mantis, I'll just swat them away or sometimes pick them up and throw them out. Has happened many a time. Strangers, friends, colleagues. If someone is scared of a bug, I'll take care of it. Story 64. Horror movies. They don't scare me, but I enjoy the entire range, from spooky to slasher, from psychological to gory. Nothing triggers me, and I honestly have no patience for anyone that has triggers in movies. It's a movie, a fictional portrayal. Save your cowering for real-world horrors. Story 65. Societal rejection. Had a mild existential crisis I'm still working through, and I simply reached a point of accepting that my place in society isn't in the middle. I'm not above it or anything. I've just never understood it and found a reason to stop pretending. I don't get the games and fake niceties, nor do I get taking every other comment as an insult. It baffles me and leads to frustrations. My energy is better spent embracing the people and things I genuinely feel a connection with, which is great if you want to finally start releasing music you've had for over 10 years. Less great if you're also actively struggling to figure out who you are and what you actually do connect with. Story 66. Insects, arachnids, and other creepy crawlies. I saw this post one time that was a picture of a bathroom covered in cockroaches, and it said, "You get $5 million if you spend a night here. Do you do it?" And I'm like, hell yeah, I'll do that full time. Story 67. Needles. The only thing that bothers me is the prick, and that's not aversion or hate or phobia. It just means I spend about 1 second to remember the slight pain to prepare, and I'm good. Heck, I even have experienced one of the worst kinds of infections, right in between your joints for a treatment for my arthritis. I was 14, 15, horrible and never want to do it again. Right in between my ankle joints, it's a bigger needle and greatly uncomfortable. Glad I never have to those regular injections again and that I can swallow tablets now, but not scared of it. Speaking of, my last blood test, I didn't feel it at all. It was amazing. It's rare you get someone that good at it. That's not to mean most are bad. Some sting is normal. It just was near perfect. This puncture. Story 68. Snakes. I love them actually, and rats. I know that they are technically gross, but I see no reason to be afraid. Maybe had something to do with having pet rats growing up. I was so confused to hear that people are afraid of rats. Story 69. I realized maybe the dark isn't so scary, with it starting to get dark so early and daylight savings time being over. I've resorted to playing with my dog in the backyard at night. I find myself kind of liking being outside in the dark. It is peaceful and something about it feels oddly sneaky. Story 70. Ghosts. They are just people and animals that lost so much weight they are weightless. Getting stabbed. Been stabbed. It isn't as scary after that and gives you insight on the different mentalities going into stabbing. The people are scary. Sharks. I believe I have been quoted. I'm not scared of sharks. I am scared of shark bite. I'm not going to do anything stupid that will make a shark mistake me for food. Being alone. Not having a partner or personal family with a lover. It isn't going to end the world if I don't fall in love and have kids. Just let me babysit yours. We will spend hours playing video games and doing crafts. It is fun teaching them things. Allergic reactions. I've had them enough times that I am already doing things to help me recover, while the people around me are panicking and freaking out. Like seriously? You panicking is not going to help. Getting kidnapped. Happened enough times that it isn't scary to me. It is more of, okay, what do you want now? I am broke and there is nothing for you. Getting lost in the woods. I have gotten lost so many times it is easy to find my way back to civilization. Not to mention I know the basic survival skills for wild. Losing power, electricity. Yes, it makes life more convenient and comfortable, but it is easy enough to live without it. Story 71. Talking to adults. Just became an adult, so technically older adults, people with authority. Even when I was a younger kid, it never really bothered me to talk to adults, such as teachers or random people like others did. Maybe it's normal to be like this, and I'm just comparing myself to my brother who hates doing this. Story 72. Not most people, but people of a certain belief that different or the other is to be feared. I work with teens, and I absolutely love to have the range of backgrounds and experiences kids have, where some are more reserved and traditional, while others are free spirits and don't fit into one specific category, but many at the same time. I enjoy interacting with more than just the same type of kid in my job. Uniformity in belief and tradition and personality would be boring and honestly not helpful for people to learn different perspectives. Story 73, the future. Things are changing, sure. Not totally for the worse and not totally for the better. But I think of what my great-grandparents and grandparents lived through between 1870 and 1980, and we're going to be fine. I work with enough young people to know that the world is going to be okay, even if I become that cranky old man yelling, "Get off my lawn," and telling everyone the old days were better, even though they really, really weren't. Story 74, public speaking. Talking to executives at work about important issues and pushing back on them when they set unrealistic expectations for my team, yet providing an alternate solution that's a compromise. Having uncomfortable discussions early instead of letting them build to become real issues. Not allowing people to speak their truth on a subject that involves me or my work without pushback. When I disagree, let's engage in a debate. Words like "it's my truth" are dismissive and say "believe me no matter what." Story 75, taking the winning shot, kick, trivia question, golf swing, whatever. I'm not awesome or even above average at anything. However, I'll be able to move on if it doesn't work out, but I like the pressure and usually perform better with it. Story 76, large wild animals. The idea of running into them used to spook me when I first started spending time outdoors. But now, I've had enough encounters with grizzlies, cougars, and moose where they immediately run from me in fear, and none where any aggression has been demonstrated, that I no longer fear them. I'm aware they could kill me easily, but with each peaceful encounter, I understand that the odds of them wanting to try are much lower than we often believe. Story 77. A lot of people say alone, but I feel like many aren't as alone as they think they are. I've been single my whole life. I'm 40 plus now, and the older I grow, the more it sucks. Not terrible enough to try and change it because I've made my peace with living and dying alone. It's my path. Enough, though, that it creeps into my thoughts more often. I think this is due to my social life slowing down. Not as much hanging with the boys or out in the woods ripping up the tracks on a dirt bike. Fun things that pee the day. Now I do more and more sitting around waiting for bed. Story 78. Bugs in general, but I love them. Spiders. I once owned a beautiful orange-kneed Colombian tarantula named Mr. Bill. I love bees. I have jewelry and clothing with bee designs. I truly love moths more than butterflies, but butterflies are still nice. Just really love them all, except flies, mosquitoes, fleas, and ticks. They all suck. Story 79. Speaking on calls with high-ups at work. IDK exactly when it happened. But one day, I figured out they aren't paying attention the majority of the time anyway. Basically, unless you're talking about something that will get them fired or make their bonus smaller, they're there just so their name appears in the list. Story 80. Opening those cardboard tubes that have the biscuits or crescent rolls. I mean, I get the jump scare aspect and how that'd freak most people out, but everyone tries to pop them open with a spoon. Of course, that's going to surprise attack you. I've literally always just removed the wrapper as usual, take the tube in my hand, and just smack the side of it on the edge of the counter. There. It's popped open, and you've let out a little of your stress along with it, and there's nothing to be afraid of. Story 81, heights and needles. I love skydiving, bungeeing. I used to access rooftops for fun, getting my skydive license, etc. I love heights. And needles blood are totally fine. I used to donate platelets a lot and would watch them insert those big as IV needles in both my arms. Story 82, just scary places. When younger, I had a group of friends that wanted to go visit this local house. They all chickened out, and I went alone. Some people are freaked out at graveyards, and I am respectful but can find them neat but sad, have gone at dark with no issue. Story 83, the dark. I understand it. The unknown is the scariest thing out there, but I guess as long as I have seen the place in light and know there's nothing nefarious, then I can turn the lights off and be fine. No running up the stairs for me. Story 84, public speaking / performing for an audience. I've heard a lot of people rank fear of public speaking higher than death, but it's just not that bad. When the crowd gets big enough, it's hard to even pick out individual people, and that also somehow makes it less intimidating. I performed for a crowd of about 7,000 people once, and it was oddly calming. Story 85. During the summer, we frequently see wasps land on our bird bath. They'd take a sip of water, then continue on their journey. Occasionally, they'd go into the light fixtures on the ceiling of the farmer's porch. My wife freaked, but I enjoyed watching them. Story 86. Wasps have facial recognition. If you messed with them in the past, they will recognize you and can actually pee that information onto the rest of the hive. Conversely, if you are not an enemy, they remember that and pee that on also. Story 87, interviews. I actually love them. I literally get hyped about them the night before, running through questions they might ask and how I might answer. I've literally thought about both sides of the process so much, I almost feel like I've come up with better questions when thinking about the answers. I think the key for me is to be open to interviews and to interview often, even when you don't need to. It gives you the best mindset for negotiation anyways, if the right opportunity does come along. Story 88, public speaking. I'm fairly good at it. I've been told I have a good voice by a lot of people. I never got nervous at all about it until like the past 2 years. And it's just BC. I put on some weight. Besides that, though, I have no nervousness or fear of it. It's cool to be talking and have 70% of more of a room giving you their attention at times. Haha. Story 89, yellow jackets, especially if they are flying around a place like an ice cream shop. I normally just put some of whatever I'm eating on a finger, and I normally get at least 3 landing and eating it. Never once gotten stung by one. My friends and family find it weird and call me crazy for letting them get that close, but I don't mind them. I know they just want the sugar. Story 90, darkness. I have had 5 concussions in my life, so I developed a sensitivity to unnatural light even after my normal symptoms faded. In order to get around, I learned how to move around with almost no light at all, by memorizing where I was going, sort of like a blind person would. I also learned how to figure out where things were in the absence of light. My cat is on top the 3rd cushion of my couch right now. You can't see her. The room is only lightly lit through our windows. But you can notice that there is a small spot where light from the street light isn't ping above the couch to the wall in that spot. It's very ironic because as a child, I was very scared of the dark. Now I love it. Story 91, public speaking. It's never bothered me. I don't understand why people are so scared of it. And I'm not some crazy extroverted psycho. I'm actually very introverted. I just don't understand what the big deal is. Story 92. A horse trying to buck me off. The horse that I lease has a habit of bucking or throwing his legs out when you ask him to canter, and honestly, it doesn't bother me at all anymore. It's kind of just like a little inconvenience to me at this point.